Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is HAZIRAH QURRATU AINI binti Muhammad HAZRI with metric number 1200780. I'm from KMB5. Will be presenting the two elements which are the seller and buyer and the subject matter under the elements of Islamic contracts. So now the primary objective of Islamic contracts are: the first one is to provide adequate protection to the consumers. The second one, promotion and preservation of consumer rights. And the last one is to protect rights of both the seller and the buyer. Next, even though there is no provision for the elements of Islamic contract, but it is somehow related to the conventional law which is under the Contract Act 1950. So here I enclose some applicable laws with respect to the elements of Islamic contract. The first one is the Section 11 of the Contract Act 1950. Every person is competent to contract who is of the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject and who is of sound mind and is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. The second one, Section 15 of the Contract Act 1950 stated that coercion is the committing or threatening to commit any act forbidden by the penal code, or the unlawful detaining or threatening to detain any property to the prejudice of any person whatever with the intention of causing any person to enter into an agreement. The next one is Section 19 subsection 1 of the Contract Act 1950, which is when consent to an agreement is caused by coercion, fraud or misrepresentation, the agreement is a contract voidable at the option of the party whose consent was so caused. And the last one is Section 30 of the Contract Act 1950. Agreements, the meaning of which is not certain or capable of being made certain, are void. A agrees to sell to B 100 tons of oil. There is nothing whatever to show what kind of oil was intended. The agreement is void for uncertainty. A agrees to sell to B 1,000 gantangs of rice at a price to be fixed by C. As the price is capable of being made certain, there is no uncertainty here to make the agreement void. So now we move to the main discussion of my presentation, which are the two elements of Islamic contract. The first one is the seller and buyer, and the next one is the subject matter. The first element is the seller and buyer, which is contracting parties. Shariah requires from the contracting parties that they should be mukallaf, which means they are capable to understand the legal obligation. In Malaysia, the age of majority is 18 years according to the Age of Majority Act 1971. Besides understanding, it is also essential that the subject mukallaf performs the act by his free will and choice. If an act is performed under coercion, it will not produce legal effects that are assigned to a valid act. Understanding of communication is a basis of legal capacity is linked in Islamic law with adulthood. Thus, when a person attains puberty and adulthood, he is presumed to have developed ability to understand and perform the act required by the Shariah. A minor or insane are therefore not under legal obligation because they are devoid of intellect and reason required for understanding the legal obligation. An intoxicated person during the state of intoxication is also unable to understand the legal obligation, so his contracts and transactions are considered void in all four schools of thought of Islamic law. We can see that actually the seller and the buyer under the Islamic law of contracts is actually related to the Section 11 of the Contract Act 1950, Section 15 of the Contracts Act 1950, and the Section 19 subsection 1 of the Contract Act 1950. The second one is the subject matter, which is we call mabi' in Islamic law of contract, is one of the most important elements of Islamic law of contract, especially in the context of product liability. It includes object of the contract, commodity, performance, and consideration, and of the contract. In Islamic law, the contractual obligation of one party is consideration for the contractual obligation of another party. In a contract of sale, for instance, the commodity is the consideration for the purchaser and the price is the consideration for the seller. The subject matter, mabi' must be valuable, evaluated or able to be evaluated, exist the time of concluding the agreement or be going to exist in the future, and be legal in order to be recognized by Islamic law. All these conditions should exist in the subject matter. For example, the sale and trading of commodities such as products for alcoholic pork products is prohibited, and contracts involving such commodities are void on the grounds of their legality. The flesh and bones of animals that have died by other means than ritual slaughter, halal, cannot be sold. Idols are also forbidden commodities. Hence, we can see that the Section 30 of the Contract Act 1950 is actually related to the subject matter of the elements of Islamic contract. So, in short, Islamic law of contracts actually ensures the protection of rights of both seller and the buyer. Islamic law of contract, based on the divine law and ethics, highly emphasizes on the protection and preservation of buyers' interest before the making of a contract, while formation of the contract and even after its conclusion. So, that's all from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.